Well, everybody, it is time for Behind the Scenes with the Hanover Theater. And Elisa Condit is, of course, your host. Also, I know going to be joined by Olivia today to talk, who is artistic director. And everybody is on the line. So fantastic. Let me go right to Lisa then to give a better introduction to Olivia than I ever could and help bring some insight into what's happening. Good morning, Lisa.
Good morning, Hank. So happy to be here as always and thrilled to have Olivia Scanlon joining us. Yes, Olivia is the artistic director of our brand new THT repertory. And breaking news yet again here in Behind the Scenes, Hank. Guess what?
Ooh, what? I like the breaking news.
I know, and it's all because of Olivia, and Troy helped too, I'm sure. But Olivia, we got approval within the last week for something very special. And welcome to the program. I know we just are throwing you in there, but that's what it's like here in the Woo, isn't it?
I love it. Thanks for having me. Happy to be
Absolutely. Yes. Well, so for a little bit better introduction, Olivia is not only the artistic director of our brand new THT repertory, but she's also over at the Brick Box, over there at the JMac. And I can see it from my office right there facing the Common, and she's been in the city for about a year now, really getting everything squared away with the groundwork for opening that new, smaller venue that we have talked about here. But what's super exciting is what's going on with THT Rep and Actors Equity, because we all know that nobody has been able to see a live performance indoors around here, right?
That's right, absolutely. So for folks who may not know, Actors Equity Association is the name of the union that represents professional stage actors and stage managers in the United States, and I happen to be a member of it. And they have rightly had very strict regulations on performances, as have so many of our country's governors and the CDC and so on and so forth. So it's very difficult right now to, rightfully so, to have a live performance where an actor not wearing a mask is inside in an audience full of people, speaking in a loud, clear voice. So I put my thinking cap on and I said, how can we do this? How can we have live performance? And I thought about the space, which is the Brick Box Theater. We'll talk more about that again in a second. And I thought about the season, it being Halloween, and I thought to myself, wouldn't it be fun if we had very small groups for intimate performances of 2 Edgar Allan Poe short stories? The Brick Box is big enough that we can have the 25-person limit for indoor events established by Charlie Baker. And it's also big enough that the audience members can really be far apart from each other, and I, as the performer, can be far apart from them. So I brought this idea to Troy Siebels, President and CEO of the Hanover Theater and Conservatory for the Performing Arts, and I said, Troy, hey, we're starting this initiative, THT Rep, and Lisa, I hope we can clarify a little bit more in a minute, the nuances between THT Rep and the Brick Box, but brought this idea to Troy. I said, hey, we're starting this initiative, THT Rep. I think this idea of the private Poe performances could work, and he was game, and the whole Hanover Theater team was game, and so we set out on this process to work with Actors Equity Association, and by the end of it, we have a 15-page safety protocol that took about 3 weeks of back and forth, of collaborative and good, positive back and forth to refine, and then we also had it independently reviewed by an infectious disease specialist at UMass Memorial, and Actors Equity approved us as the first producer in Massachusetts and one of the first in the country to have indoor live performance. And so beginning October 1st, we're going to have groups of 20 or fewer who all know each other. That's part of the plan, is that instead of putting the tickets on sale publicly, the groups of people know and trust each other and are aware of who they are going to be in the theater with. We are going to have these 2 Edgar Allan Poe short stories performed for groups of 20 or fewer. Each little individual group of patrons within the larger group, so say you come with your husband, that makes the 2 of you an individual group. You get your own little cabaret table, and then the next little individual groups get their own little cafe table, and so on and so forth. And so we'll have these cafe tables spread out in the Brick Box, cabaret-style seating, And then I'm also directing the piece. I'm directing and performing it, and I've decided to stage it as a seance. So the audience has to do a little bit of work, and they have to help conjure the narrators of these sort of gory, gruesome, wonderful, delightful stories. The audience has to help conjure them to visit through me. So that's what we're doing.
Oh, my gosh. I cannot wait. I'm looking forward to the preview performances. I will totally be there. You can better believe we'll be inviting our friends Hank and Ben if they would like to come as well. And there's so much that I know. There's so much I would love to unpack in what you just said, and we definitely will be talking about the nuances between the brick box and THT Rep, and we just threw a lot of information out there and a lot of words within 10 seconds. So thank you for reminding me that that is something that I do. But I think that people, I know I am very interested because it's fresh, it's new. We're literally, I think there are only 10 other theater companies that I saw on Actors Equity website that have approval on their website to have indoor performances, and we're about to be in that next update that they do. So that is so exciting. I'm proud of how talented and smart and fun you are, and I can only imagine what the seance is going to turn up with Edgar Allan Poe's, as you said, delightful language. But, let's go back to, all right, it was a big wake-up call for me as I was oozing about this to my workout buddies about, oh, you're not even going to believe it, the THT repertory. And they said, whoa, what is a repertory, first of all? Because sometimes we get caught up in our artistic language, and people who are listening are like, oh, well, that's great, but what's THT Rep? What's THT repertory?
Sure. So we have the big Hanover Theater on Main Street that everyone knows and loves, and I think understands that is really more of a venue that hosts other performing arts events that are coming through town, like Broadway tours and comedians and musicians, right? The Hanover Theater itself, the staff of the Hanover Theater isn't responsible for creating that content. They're responsible for hosting it. So we're starting the Hanover Theater Repertory as an initiative where we create our own work in and for Worcester, and we are going to primarily use the Brickbox Theater, the smaller theater around the corner, as the venue where that work is shared with audiences. And a repertory, from what I understand, that word in particular is sort of an Americanization of the French word repertoire.
Yes.
Because theater companies would have, back in the day, would have a repertoire of shows that they sort of kept in a stable. And so you could go to the repertory theater and see show A on Thursday night, but then you could go and see show B on Friday night, and you could see show C on Saturday night. And they would rotate this repertoire of programming, of work, of productions all throughout a season. And generally the same actors would have different roles in all of the shows. And so the theater company had a repertoire. And so, that's not necessarily a common model anymore here in the States, at least, but that idea of, the repertory company, of local artists making work in their theater for their community is very much still alive and well, and what we hope to sort of capture with this initiative. So that's a little bit of the relationship between Big Hanover Theater and the overarching organization, and then this new initiative, THT Rep.
Well, and let me just jump in and say it's so inspirational and motivating as well, because people who listen know that I've been talking about the conservatory, and that's been a really big bright spot for us, especially during the pandemic. We now have a second really big bright spot, and it's that creative energy and that ability to problem solve and to bring it to the people. And, first we really answered that need for a venue like the main stage at the Hanover Theater, where we could bring Broadway tours and we could bring the big names, not as a stadium, but as a smaller experience, especially for touring Broadway, really important. Then the conservatory, now it's THT Rep. And it's so cool because it allows us to also get back to some of our mission and vision work, and we've talked a little bit about that as well. So now let's go back to the theater district as a whole, because we're very much committed to being really great neighbors and leaders in the cultural community and the business community here in downtown Worcester, central New England. So it can be confusing for people, I'll acknowledge that, to say, okay, so brick box, what's the brick box? And it really is a perfect setting for THT Rep in a lot of ways, and I'll let you describe that. But now let's talk about, okay, so what's a brick box, and where is that?
Sure. Totally. I think I've gotten good at describing it. It seems confusing at first just because in the nature of how Worcester works, which I love, there are different organizations working together to sort of bring this space to fruition. It's certainly not only the Hanover Theater.
That's right.
First I'll explain. The Brick Box is a theater. It's in the style of a black box theater, which is unlike the Hanover Theater, where the audience is always sitting in a fixed location and the stage is always in a fixed location. A black box theater tends to be more flexible, where you can move the seating around. It literally is like a big black box that's empty, where you can move the seating around and move the performers around and use the space in a different and more flexible way. The reason we're calling ours a brick box instead of a black box is purely and only because it's a beautiful old Worcester industrial space. It used to actually be part of the Telegram and Gazette. I think it was the sports section. So a lot of cigars were smoked in there. And we wanted to leave the beautiful character of the exposed brick. So our theater behaves like a black box, but we call it a brick box because it is made all of exposed brick. It's located downtown, right around the corner from the main stage Hanover Theater at 20 Franklin Street, in a building that was just named the Gene McDonough Art Center, because Gene McDonough's philanthropy was instrumental in us being able to put the venue together. And the Hanover Theater sort of wears two hats over at the Brick Box, and then I have two corresponding hats. So the Gene McDonough Art Center is actually an initiative of the Worcester Cultural Coalition, which is a coalition of close to 80 organizations in Greater Worcester. And they identified the need for a performance space approximately the size of the Brick Box where they could do their work. And so this was a many years in the making process that this space was identified and transformed into a theater. And along the way, the Worcester Cultural Coalition hired, essentially, the Hanover Theater to manage the Brick Box. So one of my roles is managing director of the Worcester Brick Box. I manage the space, and I work with other members of the Worcester Cultural Coalition who want to use the space to have dance and film screenings and music and other performing arts events.
And so can I ask, have people already been reaching out to you and been responsive and excited about when do they get to use that space?
Well, absolutely. I mean, we had a really great lineup of work all ready to go. And then, of course, COVID, put a bit of a damper on that.
Right.
So people are hanging in there. Organizations are hanging in there. They're looking forward to using the space just as soon as they can. And we're also pivoting and working on acquiring streaming equipment so that they have an option for using the space in the interim until fully seated live performances can return.
That's awesome.
That's also a very cool bright spot.
Yes.
So that's the one hat that the Hanover Theater wears at the Brick Box, is managing the venue on behalf of the Worcester Cultural Coalition. Now, the Hanover Theater is also a member of the Worcester Cultural Coalition, so here's the other hat. So the Hanover Theater wants to use the space as a creative venue, under the auspices of it being a member of the coalition. And so that's where THT Rep comes in. We've created THT Rep as sort of the title or the brand under which we are going to produce our own creative work. And so that's why I also have this title now of Artistic Director of THT Rep, because that's really solely a Hanover Theater function, whereas my Managing Director hat is in partnership with the Worcester Cultural Coalition, and more outward-facing in that I'm working with and supporting other organizations and creatives who want to use the space. So I hope that clarifies it a little bit.
Oh, absolutely. absolutely. And I have to say, it's a really good thing for all of us that you have as much energy and talent and expertise as you do in order to do two, in essence, full-time jobs under one umbrella. But,
Well,
the
to no one. You're no slouch yourself.
Well, the great thing is, though, is look at this energy and look at all of the different people who are able to get involved at a much more accessible level. And that's really an important part of it, too. We sometimes at the Hanover Theater have struggled because we want to have we want to have some work come into the theater that we know there's not a lot of commercial benefit to. We're not going to really be able to sell enough tickets in order to cover the expenses of that programming coming in.
Sure.
It still means it's extraordinarily important and valuable, and it should be seen, and those artists should be recognized. The Brick Box gives us such a great opportunity, not only in that aspect, but also for our conservatory students and, as you said, THT Rep. So getting back to THT Rep and the Poe doubleheader, wow, right? So I quiver with excitement when I think about that, only because I'm a very literary person. And I asked you, I gave you a little heads up. I'm dying, no pun intended, to know, for both of those pieces of work, is there a moment that you really look forward to that as a potential audience member we might want to, really look for or think about? Like what?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. I don't think we've actually said out loud yet. The two pieces that I'm performing and directing are the Telltale Heart and the Cask of Amontillado. And I guess I would say, there are a lot of fun different moments in there, but what I guess I would say is what I've really tried to do, because they are both these sort of Gothic stories written in a sort of similar style. They're both first-person narrated. They're both about these sort of gory murders. What I've tried to do is create an enormous amount of contrast between how each piece is staged. And so I think what might be fun is to keep an eye out for, and to know that they each have very much their own distinct style. And that's been really fun and a really, really good workout as an actor and a director. And I do want to shout out to my team. I have an assistant director who is a current student at the conservatory, and she's been enormously helpful. She'll stand on stage when I want to look at staging, and then she'll hold my book for me when I want to work on lines. And then two Hanover Theater folks, Brenda and Steve Shepard, are designing lights and sound and also doing the light and sound technical support work. And then a colleague of mine from my previous life, Chelsea Curl, is a brilliant costume designer. And then finally, Worcester native and acclaimed director, Benny Sato Ambush, is going to come watch the previews and take notes for me while I'm on stage so that I have a little bit of support, because I obviously can't watch myself while I'm up there. So I have an awesome, awesome team creatively. And then, again, a special shout out to you, Lisa, and the folks at the Hanover Theater, because this has been a team effort to get this thing up and running. So thank you so much.
You are more than welcome, and we are completely pumped to be able to offer this. We will be making it live on our website today. Of course, our website is the Hanover Theater, spelled with an RE.org. It will have its own section, so /THT Rep will give you a lot of information. People can call me. My number is all over the website. My email is lisa@thehanovertheater.org with questions. And here's the thing. I think about this event, and of course, you have to think about it as one group, right? So one group of 20 because of the actors and the people who are necessary to put the show on, right? So one group, if you maybe your family would like to do something really fun. You're not able to go on vacation. You're not able to go and do very many things. So think about your own home experience, or if you want to check out this new space at the Brick Box, being able to really host your own private, and it's October 1st through 25th is when we're doing those performances. So very limited number of performances, only through part of the month of October. I have a feeling that these are going to sell out, again, fairly quickly because, again, it's very limited and people have reason to want to, in the month of October, have entertainment. And this is so unique, so new, so fresh, so fun, and unexpected that I think that if people are interested, they're going to want to reach out to me within the next week. What do you think?
I agree.
Yes.
Yeah, I really agree. And I just want to point out, too, that, yes, we're doing private bookings, but it's up to 20 people. So if just you and your spouse want to have a really fun special date and come and watch me perform this thing, it's really going to be sort of a one-of-a-kind theatrical experience. And it's also a really wonderful way to support the theater. If you do seat fewer than 20 guests, any seats that you don't use can be credited to you as a charitable gift deduction. So you can also be supporting us, because obviously COVID has been, hard on performing arts venues. So
absolutely.
It's just kind of a win-win-win for everybody, I think, and I hope, and I do think it's going to be really fun. And I'm really hard on myself, so the fact that I'm saying that is is its own endorsement.
It is definitely going to be fun. It is definitely a win-win situation. So again, information will be available on our website at the Hanover Theater, spelled with an RE.org. Olivia, thank you so much for taking time out of an extraordinarily busy schedule to share this with us. Again, people will be able to listen on the podcast, and we will be reaching out to our trusty email subscribers with more information.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome. I want you to have a great day. Everybody, I also want to remind you that we have Grace Kelly performing this weekend on Sunday in front of the Hanover Theater, and we will be making a live stream of that performance available on our Facebook page. We are asking for a suggested donation if you're able. That would, of course, be appreciated. That's going to be Sunday, 4 p.m. Well, on that note, we're going to let Grace Kelly take us into the weekend. Everybody, I look forward to seeing you next week on Behind the Scenes with the Hanover Theater.